conversations that I have been having with a lot of people these days, past couple of weeks, maybe a little bit longer, it's always about, what's going on, what's the changes, how things are different, whether it is real estate professionals that we're sitting down having coaching calls with, whether it is a property owner that we manage their property for, a staff member in a management company said things are a little bit different. It really doesn't matter. It can be outside of our industry. It totally just having conversations with people, and the world is just different. The world is in flux. It's just changing. There's a lot of things going on, and it's our job as professionals in our industry to make sure that we're keeping up with that, because to be honest with you, the consumer, the lay people, they're lagging indicators of what we've already kind of gone through for several months. You have a conversation with a client and they tell you how they're feeling, and you introspectively look in, you're like, yeah, we've been talking about that. We've been thinking about that for the past, 45 days. And so it's important for us as professionals to be on the leading edge of those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, here's an example. All the NAR stuff. We've been talking about it. Everybody in our industry has been talking about this, the settlement, the lawsuits previously, all that, when it was coming down the pike, all this stuff was going on, and majority of the public had no earthly idea what was going on. As soon as the headlines started coming out, everybody wanted to know all about it and this,
Sure.
that, and the other. But that's kind of what you're talking about, in the fact that, we need to have, as experts in this industry, we need to have that knowledge base for when we are talking to the consumers, we can educate them on what's going on.
Yeah, and even more so, it's important to be to control the narrative, because as an industry leader, if you're letting news outlets control the narrative, you've lost. And more importantly, you've lost to ignorance. Mm-hmm. And so much of the information that is spewed over the media airwaves is factually incorrect, and more importantly, philosophically just not based in reality. Mm-hmm. And so it's important for us as leaders to at least lead the narrative, controlling, making sure that true and accurate information is getting out, because consumers will benefit from that. They benefit from being given the information versus letting them try to navigate and cherry pick headlines that have been baked in to garner a reaction from the mainstream media.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to, as times change, times always change. If you take what's going on right now, we always say, oh, it's changing right now. But if you take what's going on right now and you back it up and look at everything historically in a longer view, things are always changing.
Yeah.
Things are always changing. We get bogged down with how things are now. It's so funny to listen to real estate agents talk about this. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Things are changing, and I don't know how to adjust my business model, my practices, this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, really, again, when you back up, we're constantly changing in this business, constantly.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to kind of go down, and we'll go into some specifics of the changes that are there, the things that we need to talk about, putting some dialogues in your toolbox to have conversations around with respect to real estate agents. But it's more than just that. This is something that is affecting all industries, all walks of life, just general walks of life. And another one that it's affecting, and for us personally, we have a property management firm, and that business is changing. Mm-hmm. That business is changing very rapidly, and is weird, because that's not a business that changes typically rapidly. It's more of a steady, slower shift. It's kind of like the cruise ship making a turn. It's usually a slow sort of turn, just because of the nature of the business. But it's seen a pretty rapid change in how things are going on. And investors, people that have their money invested in that, are feeling that change, and they're feeling it relatively quickly. And it's important for us to be engaging with them so that they understand why these things are changing. No, it's not just a singular event; it's a market-wide condition.
Yeah, so a lot of things are changing, but from the standpoint of investors investing in residential real estate investing, and I'm going to preface this by saying this: it's still a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful investment to be in. However, in my opinion, the change happened over the last 10 years. It was basically just, it really didn't change for a long time. And then the last 10 years, it exploded.
Yeah.
Just exploded. And now, we're not going back completely to where we were because we've just progressed so much at this point. But the explosion, the money, everything that has gone into residential real estate that made the return so high for 10 years, like I said, we're starting to get back to normal types of returns. And that's what people are feeling. A lot of people got into that business during that time and said, hey, these returns are ridiculous. I'm going to make a fortune and I'm going to get into this. But they didn't know what it was like before. Very similar to the real estate sales business and the fact that you had so many real estate agents get into the business when it was exploding. Everybody was buying and selling. Just transactions were everywhere. Now we're getting back kind of to a normal time period, quote unquote, and people are going, wow, what do I do now?
Right.
So
yeah, no, and I feel you there, but I think that I think one of the big things that has caused such a dramatic feeling, and it just, again, it's hard to quantify, but there's a feeling of things moving quickly. I think a big piece of that is the fact that over the last 5-7 years in the residential rental world, there has been so much money invested in it. And take it back, it is not your individual investors. It is not, me and you that have, 20 some properties. No, it is your institutional Wall Street investors who come in and own 10,000, 50,000 single family homes in a particular area that is causing this quick moving and change, because they are absolutely beholden to economic environments, and their goal is to maximize returns. They have investors that are expecting X number of returns and X things to happen, and so when financial markets shift, they shift too. Mm-hmm. And when they shift 50,000 units in a different direction, it affects the whole really quickly, which never happened. It was not part of the game for so long. And them and those companies being in it has caused those changes to happen a lot quicker and a lot more dramatic, especially in those markets that have them. Our market has them. Mm-hmm. Our market is flooded with these institutional investors. There's a lot of markets. There's a lot of markets that aren't. So your market, that if you're in, does not have a lot of institutional investors, you may be insulated from these quick changes. But those of us that do have them, it's important for us to have that conversation. And right now, the conversation we're having is in our market, and I would say from a conference that we just went to, nationwide, rents are there's a downward pressure on rents right now, mm-hmm. which is hard to believe, given the constant upward pressure we've had for so long. But yes, we now have a downward pressure on rents, and it is so important for us to talk about that with our owner clients, our property investor clients, because every day they're faced with decisions. Do I do X or Y? Do I make this capital investment? Do I not make this? Do I Band-Aid this issue? Do I go in and put a larger sum of money to fix it? Do I try to raise my rents on a current tenant, or do I try to scale back and just trying to keep them happy and keep them there? And those are the conversations that we need to be having, and they need to hear so they can make good, educated decisions.
Yeah. So the reason the general public still thinks rents are going up is because it's a lagging indicator.
Yep.
Okay, so essentially you get a tenant is in a lease for a period of time. Let's call it 12 months. Okay, they let's say we have a tenant in a lease that signed 3 months ago, and at that point, let's say the market was at the high at that point. That tenant's still paying that rent.
Yep.
That rent has not declined. Where we're seeing declines are when tenants move out, we have to re-rent the property, and a lot of times we're re-renting the properties for less than what we were renting them for before. So that information really has not gotten out there because it's so kind of new right now.
Yeah.
Good news about this is the inflation rate, the CPI rate, what the Fed looks at when they're looking at inflation. The thing they couldn't get under control is housing. Mm-hmm. And one of the main pieces of that, pretty much the main piece of that, is rental rates in housing. Haven't seen the decline. CPI has been waiting and waiting and waiting for this decline. So hopefully this information is on the cusp of coming out, and that should help us or help them be able to tame the inflation. But that is the reason why the general public is still thinking, oh, right, rents are going up. Well, no, it's rents went up. They're starting to come down, and you're not going to see that because you've got the lagging effect of these contract periods.
Sure, absolutely. So what does that mean? What are some of the things that for your clients who have investment property, for you who have investment property, no, I'm not talking to BlackRock. No, I'm not talking to these mega folks. They have their stuff squared away. They're going in and looking at things, and they're cutting, and which is causing, they're doing 5-10% rent reductions across the board to be able to get their properties occupied. What I'm saying for those that have rental property, be cognizant of the environment that you're in. Know what you're in. And, for so long, I hate to say this, in a rental property, there are multiple stakeholders. There are the property owner, there's property management companies, there are tenants. Mm-hmm. And for so long, the tenants were given the bottom of the barrel treatment. They, because there were 15 of them lined up ready to take their place and paid more than what they were paying. Well, that's not the market we're in. So it's important that you take care of your tenants, that you are providing them things that make them comfortable, things that they're excited to want to stay. Because let's look at the numbers. On average right now, to turn a property and put a new tenant in place, the rent price on average is ticking down roughly around 5%. So you as a property owner will lose roughly 5% in rent income, not to mention the maintenance and the turn costs, just literally rent income when you turn a property right now in today's market. But if you keep a tenant, rates are on average going up around 2%. Mm-hmm. Not 5-10%, but they're on average they're still going up on tenants that you keep. So if you keep a tenant happy, you can continue to raise your income level. Maybe not at the rate that you were previously, but it's that spread is a 7% spread versus keeping versus losing. So it's important in today's time that we talk about that. That Band-Aid that you put in place, the things that you didn't do, the benefits that you provided your tenants need to be enhanced in order to maximize your return on your investment.
Yeah, going back to what I said before, basically where you're seeing the rent reduction or the decline in rent values is when you have that tenant turnover. So like you said, even if it's a 0% growth rate, it's not a 5% decline rate. So keeping that tenant in place is very, very, very beneficial in this current market.
Absolutely, 100%. And so it's those conversations that you should be having with your clients. So real estate agents, if you're working with investors, they may not be seeing this. They may be our spreadsheet investors that literally are making decisions based on a spreadsheet. Well, it's important for them to understand not all data is going to be making its way into their spreadsheet. And a lot of people right now are making inerrant decisions that end up blowing up their spreadsheet, blowing up their profits, blowing up some things if they just don't know this information. So it's important for real estate agents to hear this, understand the market that we're in, and have these conversations with their clients. Because back to the whole beginning of this, we're in shifting markets all over the place. It's important to shift our perspective. It's important to understand that the way we did things yesterday might not be the best and most advantageous way to do them today. Maybe we need to shift our ideas. And for that, it's important to educate yourself. It's important to engage outside your normal, typical ways of living. If you are still operating and having the same conversations in the same bubbles that you've always been, maybe go have some different conversations with some different people to expand your understanding of what's going on so that you can then better educate. Guess what happens when that happens? When you educate yourself and you are the person that is coming to the table to provide information that is valuable for clients, valuable for people to help them make decisions, you know what ultimately happens? You get paid. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this on our last episode. How am I going to get paid? You're going to get paid by bringing value. And bringing value is garnered by educating yourself, being out there and in the know of what's going on, and being able to articulate that information in a way that the person on the other end can consume it and then make good decisions with that information.
Yeah, and the best way to add value in times of changing markets is understanding how to find solutions to problems, because it's back to the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people you hear, agents, market's changing. What am I going to do? What can I do, Mark? What can I do, Mark? Investors, market's changing. Property manager, hey, Mr. Property Manager, what can I do? I'm not making the money that I was making before. Give solutions. There are solutions to every issue out there. You may be the first one that comes up with it.
Yep.
That's called innovation. But when you do, like Mark said, you will get paid.
And very importantly, don't do what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is doing the same thing in a changing environment. Somebody's wrong, and typically most everybody is wrong during shifting times. They just have not discovered it and uncovered a way to do things a little bit differently. Don't be afraid to be different than every single person out there when you're trying to solve problems.
Yep, there's always a better way always a way to make a better mousetrap is what I always hear.
100%. Guys, short and sweet, we're in shifting markets. Shift your perspective, do better, provide value for your clients, and ultimately you get paid.